everybody, Glenn Hausman here, and thank you so much for tuning in to No Vacancy News today. Listen, one of the things that we've been talking a lot about in society is the rise of autism. We can't really go outside without thinking about it, talking about it. It's something that's really in the forefront of all of our minds. But one place that we haven't been talking about it in our society here is in the hospitality industry. And the truth of the matter is, including people with autism in your hospitality offerings is good for business. Now, to prove that case today, we got Mr. Alan Day of Autism Checked and Rod Clough of HVS. Gentlemen, so good to see you. Alan, why is focusing on people that have autism good for business and therefore the bottom line?
Glenn, first of all, it's great to be here. Why is it good for business? We are the hospitality industry. There is a segment of the population for which we're not being very hospitable at the moment. Now, when I say a segment of the population, per the CDC, autism impacts 1 in 44 in the US. Now, that doesn't sound that big until you start to extrapolate autistic person, parents, typically developing siblings that might travel with them. You're talking of an audience of 20 to 30 million people. Nobody has exact data on that, but it's
that's significant. And if I'm bringing my family away and I have someone in my family that is somewhere on the spectrum or has this particular condition, then I'm going to want to make sure that they feel comfortable, because if they're not, it's going to affect the entire family's vacation as well as wherever we are. Rod, I got to bring you into this conversation here. It's great to talk to you. How much emphasis is being put on creating safe spaces with people with these sensory issues such as autism, and what does it mean in the overall state of the financial side of the hospitality business?
So we've seen a shift in the way that our hotels are accommodating demand since the pandemic. Before, it was peaking out on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night. Those were your busiest days of the week. And now these markets have shifted to being a Friday and Saturday night being your peak nights. And then you might tack on a little bit of business on one end or the other, and they're calling it leisure, right?
I hate that name.
I know.
I love what we're trying to accomplish here. Not a fan of that name.
It's a love and hate relationship for people with that name. And so because of that, and because of that point of like traveling with families and it being a 1 in 44, more and more is it important for hotels to really be capturing and recognizing the needs of all of their guests. And they have a whole new segment of guests now that weren't there before. And so those hotels that are best able to do that will see ultimately increases in revenue and increases in value. And that's what the industry is all about, is really trying to maximize value of their hotels. So there's a real value play here.
Excellent. Alan, give us a couple of tips that hoteliers can incorporate pretty quickly into their product offerings to make sure they're friendly to families that are dealing with autism issues.
Fine. And the very first tip, Glenn, relates to what Rod just said. When we do a guide for visitors for hotels, one of the most important pieces of information is, what are your quietest seasons? What are your quietest days of the week? People with autism have troubles at times with crowds. It means increased delays, it's increased sensory stimuli. They like to travel off-peak. That's the time when hotels want extra revenue, because it is off-peak. They want more people in then. So it generates demand in a period where they want, when they want people. It's just addressing that. What's the simplest thing that any hotel can do? You don't even have to come to us and do the whole works.
Right.
Here's something that works for all guests, but particularly helps people with autism. Look at your operations and see what reduces waiting times. Now, isn't that a benefit to everybody?
It's definitely a benefit to anybody, no matter who you are. Who doesn't want to get off lines real quick, particularly this impatient New Yorker over here. So I totally get where you're coming from, Alan.
So yeah, that's a very easy thing that anybody can do. The next thing I would say is look at your food and beverage options. And again, Don't do things that are highly specific. But there are a lot of special dietary issues for people with autism,
Interesting.
of which the largest component is a desire for gluten-free foods.
Really?
Now, again, tell me, is that generally saleable to the whole public? Everybody seems to want gluten-free these days. For people with autism, it can be really important to be that way.
Right.
The rest of the public will find it desirable as well. Make sure your gluten-free offerings are there.
Yeah.
Tell the public what your other special dietary accommodations are. Do you have dairy-free, which would be the next most common after gluten-free? Do you have soy-free, which would be the next most common after dairy-free? Don't have to change necessarily what your menus are, but tell people what you offer that they can fit in with.
Right. Rod, it sounds to me that this is pretty easy stuff.
Overall,
from what you're seeing, how are people on the ownership side starting to embrace this hopefully money-making trend that also happens to do the right thing for people?
I think we're early on in that embracing. So we need to see more of it, which is really why we're out here trying to support Alan and spread the word. I think a lot of this comes down to communication. These are things that hotels already are, in many cases, already doing. They're identifying those types of foods. They have the nights available on those quiet days and other aspects of the program. So we're really just here to try to support that communication, get the word out, and see the industry embrace it in a greater fashion going forward.
That's excellent. Alan, Rod, thank you so much for being here. Now, listen, you have opportunity to do the right thing while also creating a competitive advantage for you. That's why helping families that are dealing with this particular issue is so essential to not only helping them increase your ratings, increase your profitability, but also, come on, it's just doing the right thing. Learn more by going to autismcheck.com. That's autismcheck.com. And don't forget to subscribe to No Vacancy. Find us at novacancynews.com. I'm Glenn Hausman. Thanks so much for watching.